What's up, everybody? It's July 11th, 2017, and it's been 2,864 days since the U beat FSU in football. Uh, got a lot of stuff today because going over the past 3 days, Sunday, Monday, and Tuesday. The last time I brought any information to you guys was on Saturday. So I think we have enough here. We got some baseball, we got some basketball, even got some tennis, and maybe something else thrown in there in the middle. Real quick, some things that I'm recapping from Sunday. The Toronto Raptors traded Corey Joseph to the Pacers for C.J. Miles, and that is so they could free up money, uh, so that they can possibly get a free up money, but also they still was able to get a wing player. So they needed C.J. Miles for what they say is a wing player, and they kind of freed up money by moving Corey Joseph over to the Pacers. Pacers got plenty of money now since they traded Paul George and Corey Joseph, a a good point guard. He was a backup point guard, but he's a good point guard. They may miss him because I'm not totally sold on Kyle Lowry because I think DeRozan is a shooting guard, right? It doesn't matter. I think he is. I think Joseph was a good guy to come in there and fill in the holes when needed. But they get C.J. Miles. Like I said, they get a wing player. They need a wing player. Hopefully that kind of balances things out because their bigs were kind of underachieving, and so we'll see how that goes. While we're talking about the Raptors, I'm gonna go ahead and skip down to the story there. The other story there. They also traded Damari Carroll to the Brooklyn Nets. I keep wanting to call them New Jersey, but they're the Brooklyn Nets for two picks and Justin Hamilton. I think Hamilton is a second year guy, and so that's why Corey Joseph became expendable because then they were able to pick up C.J. Miles. Also, the Raptors trying to lower some money. They're lowering their salary cap because right now they're well within that luxury tax level. So that's something they had to do there. One last note on the Raptors. DeMar Carroll decided to talk because a microphone was put in front of his face. And he says the Raptors locker room was split on style of play, saying one half wanted to be kind of ISO and the other half wanted to play as a team. Um, I don't know how it gets divided when you have a coach, right? And the coach should be telling you what way you should play. So I guess he was happy about that trade. I don't know what's going to happen in Brooklyn. It's not an improvement, but I guess if there's no team chemistry, it's not a bad move because you still get paid. Uh, it's guaranteed contract. But the funny thing is what the heck is the head coach doing if half the team is playing one way and half the team playing the other way? It makes sense to me if you watch them play. It looks like DeRozan and Lowry are just out there playing, and everybody else just figures out what they need to do or just fit in where you can. But it carries a lot of weight. But Dwayne Casey, you're getting called out. And so that could deter other people from wanting to play in Toronto if you can't get your two guards to play team ball. So that's interesting there. So anyway, if anything else comes of that, I'll let you know. Real quick baseball note. We have a lot of baseball to talk about, but some quick baseball notes from Sunday. The San Francisco Giants added Barry Bonds to their Wall of Fame. And as soon as baseball adds him to the Hall of Fame, I'll be totally happy. That's never going to happen, probably, but nevertheless, he deserves to be there. I don't want to hear about, performance enhancing drugs, blah, 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 blah. The reason why is because, first of all, nobody wanted to say anything about performance enhancing drugs until Barry Bonds started obliterating the records. And that's because Barry Bonds was the one guy who was already a Hall of Famer and was already the best in the game before he started taking pets. Everybody else was taking pets to get on his level. Also, Major League Baseball didn't say nothing about it until Barry Bonds started going bananas on it. All the years before then, when McGwire was breaking records and Sosa, they had no questions about it, no bothers about it. As soon as Barry Bonds did it, because nobody liked Bonds, then they started asking questions about it. So don't be reactive and don't everybody be jumping out and talking about, oh, Barry Bonds dirty, blah, blah, blah. Technically, yeah, he was dirty, but the whole era was probably dirty, and they just picked out select people that they wanted to pick out. But it was only investigated because it was Barry Bonds. Barry Bonds never takes peds. They'd probably still be taking peds because baseball saw that there was a slump in and exposure or ratings or whatever you want to call it, and attendance. They juiced the balls and they let the players juice. And then with McGwire and Sosa doing what they're doing, everybody was all hyped about it. But as soon as Barry Bonds, who nobody liked, at least the media liked, nobody liked that outside of San Francisco, all of a sudden, let's check and see what's going on. Barry Bonds, everybody says, well, he was already a Hall of Famer before he took the peds. So why did he take the peds? Okay, well, you've already solidified my other point about him needing to be in the Hall of Fame. If he was already Hall of Fame before he took the peds, then put him in. You don't want to count the records, you ain't got to count the records, but if you said he was a Hall of Famer before he took the peds, then put him in the Hall of Fame. He was one of the most gifted players, 40-40 guy, and that's home runs, stolen bases, great patience at the plate. Didn't have a strike zone, and all he did was add power to it, and that was ridiculous because he had great vision. It was hard to pitch to him already, and all he did was that. That's my little rant about Barry Bonds. I'm not going to go all into it, but hey, you ain't got to put him in. It's no big deal. He knows what he did. Doesn't matter. We know what he did. Doesn't matter. So that's that. One other note, if I had done this video on Sunday, it probably would be more shocking news, but the Astros beat the Toronto Blue Jays 19-1. And Toronto, I think, scored that one run in the bottom of the ninth or in the ninth inning. I don't know how you lose 19-1. I mean, somebody's got to say, hey, we got to stop the madness, or somebody got to say we got to score some runs. But Sunday was actually an odd day. I think a lot of teams were getting beat down. It was 12. I think it was a 12-0, a 15 to something score. So it was a lot of crazy stuff going on. But I just thought that one was the most interesting, 19-1. Astros won 60 games in the first half. I think they were one of two teams that did that this year. So basically, they're on pace for 420 wins. They're a force to be reckoned with. I still don't think they're going to win the World Series. But that's just because I'm an Angels fan. I don't like them. They're a rival. Anyway, let's move on to yesterday, Monday. Aaron Judge won the home run derby over Miguel Sano. And that was down in the home run derby was, of course, at the All-Star game or the day before the All-Star game yesterday down in Miami. And he looked pretty easy doing it. He didn't take all of his extra swings once he passed Sano. He was okay. Sano was actually pretty good. But Aaron Judge was actually in the tough bracket. The defending champ, Stanton, Giancarlo Stanton, he actually had 22 home runs in the first round, and he lost. Bohr, and I think he was he from American League or National League? He was from the National League, and I think it was the Brewers. I can't remember where he was from, but he put on a nice little show, and Stanton almost came back on him, but he's one shy, and part of it was the guy who was pitching the ball to him, his pitching coach, was really late in getting that last ball out to him. But it was a great show. The home run derby was pretty nice to watch. It was a lot of fun, very intense. But Aaron Judge, most people predicted him to win, and he did. And a rookie at that. He's a rookie in the league, and that was his first home run derby. So don't know how many more he'll be in, but MLB future is bright with guys like him in the league. I thought one interesting note from yesterday from tennis, from Wimbledon, the Grand Slam for tennis. Novak Djokovic's match was postponed until the next day, until today. He actually did that match today due to crowd safety. At 8:30 p.m. London time, there were still 30,000 people at the All England Club, and so we know London ain't as safe as it used to be, unfortunately. And so they didn't think it was safe for them to be out there for 2 more hours, possibly even 3 hours for a tennis match for Djokovic. So they said, hey, let's do it tomorrow. Everybody else go home. Djokovic ended up winning today, and so he goes to the quarterfinals. Yeah, quarterfinals tomorrow. The women's quarterfinals were completed today. I'm not going to give highlights about that. I just give who's going to be the champion at the end. But Venus Williams is still in it. But there's nobody ranked, I think, higher than like sixth or seventh. Muguruza, Gabin, Muguruza from Spain. I think she's going to win. I think she'll be one of the favorites. Simona Halep lost today. That I think uh, Muguruza plays Venus, so I think whoever wins that match will probably win the whole thing. Um, and then for the men's, the only top four seed that is out is Rafael Nadal. He lost yesterday to Mueller from Germany. The top three are still in, and we're talking about Federer, Djokovic, and Andy Murray. I still think Andy Murray is the favorite. Federer and Djokovic go against each other, I think. So that'll be an interesting match right there. Taj Gibson, the new Minnesota Timberwolf, he was traded by the Bulls. Says no, he was signed, not traded by the Bulls. He was signed by Minnesota. Um, his contract was up in Oklahoma City, and so he signed with the Timberwolves. He says he didn't know it. He was arrested in New York for a traffic violation, and that's because, and also because his license was suspended. He said he didn't know his Illinois license because he was in Chicago first, so he never got to change over to Oklahoma City. Uh, he didn't know his license was suspended until he was arrested in New York for a traffic violation, and his license was suspended for not paying a $200 fine for a window tint. Tyus, how you not know you didn't get a ticket for a window tint? They mailed it to you. You didn't get it. Is that what happened? They mailed it to you. How you know you not get it for a window tint? You couldn't have been. Come on, man. Have somebody handle the business for you, or try to drive better so you don't get pulled over. It was a you got a traffic violation in New York, and then they ran your license and found out it was suspended. So if you don't get pulled over in New York, you don't get nobody. You still don't know you suspended. Come on, bro. As an athlete, you got to have a PR person, somebody to handle your affairs. You're not handling. You don't have time to handle your affairs. You're not even taking the time to handle your affairs. Come on, man. Get it done. Get it done. Spurs signed Joffrey Levin, center, after the Bulls released him, so he could fill in a spot for the Spurs, a good backup spot because Dwayne Dedman, since we thought about that, Dwayne Dedman signed a 2-year, $14 million deal with the Atlanta Hawks. He opted out of a $3 million deal with the Spurs. He had a player option, and he opted out of that. Of course, we knew he would get more money on the market. We were only going to pay him $3 million, and the Spurs probably would be kicking themselves a little bit. I think $14 million is not a lot. $7 million a year is not a lot, especially if you're trying to not keep Powell. Powell opted out. Maybe you should let me go ahead and sign him. But I also thought about it. Damon is kind of small in stature for a power forward. He's physical. He has good defense, but he has no offense, and we need offense. And I think the Spurs were looking at trying to trade Aldridge, so keeping Dedman 7 million, and if you don't keep Power and if you didn't keep Aldridge, you'd have to get something in return. But the market is getting thin, so the Spurs team is probably going to look a lot alike next year, except for the addition of Rudy Gay. But the rest of the team should look a lot alike, except for the subtraction of Dedman. David Lee probably won't be back unless he has no takers. Powell, I don't know if Powell's going to get what he's going to get on the market, or maybe Powell opted out to save the team some money and didn't re-sign. Hopefully that's a good thing. And then hopefully LaMarcus Aldridge has his mind right. I think he'll still have his mind right because I think this is his last year before his player option. So he wants to play well because if he opts out next year, which sounds like he would, since he is allegedly unhappy or rumored to be unhappy, he's going to play hard this year because he's got to get back out there and you know got to get ready for that next check. He's auditioning for that next check. So that might be the benefit to the Spurs. We still might get a good thing out of him, good performance out of him because he's playing for one more check at least. Um, if we can bring Powell back at a reduced amount, that's not bad. But I think our focus is really on Jonathan Simmons. If we can get Jonathan Simmons, we still got to get Danny Green traded, but if we can get Jonathan Simmons for a good amount of money, that will help. It's amazing that nobody's really tried to get him. sign him already. So I guess that means we're really trying to work to get him. But we need to move. Uh, really need to move Danny Green. Jonathan Sims would be good at the two, and then Rudy coming off the bench. And I think we have another small forward that we can put in there. Also, I think we drafted one. So we drafted White and we drafted Blossom Game. So I think we have what we need from the guard and small forward section. I think our bigs is where we got to figure out what we're going to do. If we can get Powell back, as I mentioned before, we get Powell back at a reduced price. That'll help out. David Lee may come back for reduced money as well, so that'll help out. And then of course we just signed the big center, so we'll be good there as well. Hopefully he learns pretty well. Real quick NFL note I thought was interesting. Calvin Johnson said he only retired because Detroit had no shot at the Super Bowl, and Detroit told him that they would not release him from his contract, basically not trade him. So that's what he believed. Detroit said we weren't going to we was going to release him, but they called his bluff. They called Calvin Johnson's bluff. I think it's just first of all you're just you're a bad organization. You know that's basically two players. Now you include Barry Sanders, basically probably two Hall of Famers that decided to just quit because you guys didn't seem like you were dedicated to putting a good product on the field, and that's a bad thing. Uh, I didn't think Detroit was a bad team, but they just couldn't get over the hump, whether it be in the playoffs or getting to the playoffs. And, that's what it is. But Calvin Johnson, you were standing to get 24 million that next season if you had stayed. That's a lot of money. I don't know what else the Lions could do to put around you, maybe a better running back. But I don't know what else to tell you, man. But Detroit said they tried to call a bluff. What Calvin probably should have done, I think he should have done, is went ahead and said he was going to play next year, and Detroit probably would have either tried to release him because he was due 24 million that year, or even tried to trade him. But I think he had been hitting at retiring, and so Detroit believed it, and it had to be something true because it was floated all uh, through the news during his last season or after that at the end of the season. So with that being said, probably should have called. You should have called Detroit's bluff, and uh, Detroit went out because they didn't have to pay him 24 million because he retired. But hindsight is 2020, so I'm not really trying to hear Detroit saying, "Oh, we weren't. We were going to let him go. We were going to let him out of his contract." You're lying. You weren't going to let him out of his contract because you already remember what happened with Barry Sanders. You weren't going to do that. And the last thing you would want is Calvin Johnson to go somewhere else. First of all, murder your team, but also have a chance at a Super Bowl because he just didn't want to play for your team. That's basically what it was. You didn't want to do that. So I don't believe for 1 minute that they were going to let him out of his contract. But Calvin Johnson kind of played it wrong. But he also didn't want to be stuck playing for the Lions again that last year because they would have paid because there was a possibility that they would have paid him the 24 million. Anyway, enough of Calvin Johnson in the news. I hope somebody fixes that fixes that because he's gone. We could care less now, or it shouldn't matter now. Michael Jordan is joining Derek Jeter to buy the Marlins. Rumor has it that he was always in the works for it. If he was always in the works to be with to work with Jeter to buy in the Marlins, the Miami Marlins, then we've heard about it before today. I hate when people say stuff like that. Oh, he was always in it. No, he wasn't. Um, so of course that means Jeter's still in the running. Jeter and his team is still in the running to buy the Miami Marlins. Marlins could go for 1 point something billion. I think 1.3 billion. First bought by Jeffrey Lurie for like I don't know 150 something million, 150 something million, and now could go for 1.3 billion. Gotta love it. Well, in part that had to do with they built a new stadium, and it's a closed roof, so that'll help you out big time. Um, they will be competing. Jeter and company will be competing against an ownership group that features George W. Bush and a relative of Mitt Romney. I think it's either the son or the brother, but they are in the running as well, and they say they are very high in that running as well. And then there's a third group, but that group right there, Bush and Romney, is a formidable group. And I think they once owned the Texas Rangers, so I don't know if they stopped or they're trying to get two, but I know you can do that in baseball. But I guess if you got the money, that oil is something, ain't it? Anyway, I'll let you know if anything else changes. Speaking of the Miami Marlins, the Major League Baseball All-Star Game was today. The American League won 2-1 in 10 innings. Went 10 innings. Robinson Cano hit a home run in the top of the 10th to give them the win. This was the first game since 2003 to where it had no World Series ramifications, because in the past you did know that the winner team from that particular league would have home field advantage for the World Series. Now it's back to the old way. Team that has a better record will have the home field advantage. The team that has a better record of the two teams that will be in the World Series will have the home field advantage. So American League won, and American League has won, I think, like 15 of the last 16 or something like that. Anyway, American League won, but they still made it competitive, very, very competitive from a pitching standpoint. But they made it very competitive, so they just went out there just winging it. It wasn't 8-7, 11-10, nothing like that. So that was Major League Baseball. That is all the news for today. If anything else comes up in the next few days, of course, probably, well, maybe some tennis news. And then, of course, if anything happens on the basketball front, I'll let you know. Or the football front, Mike Trout will be back. Angels note: Mike Trout should be back for Friday's series when Major League Baseball's second half of the season resumes. Mike Trout should be back then, so I'm excited as an Angel fan. Other than that, it is what it is. But if anything else comes up, I'll let you guys know. Until then, take care, God bless, and free Colin Kaepernick. Peace.